hostages to be released from Gaza. He said that the Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal should be cancelled if all the hostages are not released by 12 p.m. on Saturday. He also threatened that all hell will break out if all the hostages are not released by his deadline.
I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out. And I don't think they're going to do it. I think a lot of them are dead. I think a lot of the hostages are dead. I think it's a great human tragedy what's happened, how people can be that mean to do.
Now, Trump's latest intervention came after Hamas threatened to postpone any further hostage prisoner exchanges, saying that Israel needed to fulfill its obligations under a fragile Gaza ceasefire. The Palestinian militant group later said the door remains open for the exchange to proceed as planned, calling on mediators to act. Now, after Hamas announced its intention to postpone the release of the Israeli hostages, the Israeli military said it would significantly reinforce areas around the Gaza Strip. The IDF said it was readying for any possible scenario. Now, after Hamas's unexpected announcement, hostage families and their supporters took to the streets of Tel Aviv to press the Israeli government not to abandon the ceasefire agreement. Now, people gathered near a fire while chanting slogans and holding signs with photos of the remaining hostages in Gaza. Now, describing the Hamas move as terrible, the U.S. president, however, said he would let that be Israel's decision on what should ultimately happen to the ceasefire. Trump said he will speak to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on the timeline he has proposed.
I'm speaking for myself. Israel can override it, but from myself, Saturday at 12 o'clock, and if they're not here, all hell is going to break out.
The U.S. president also threatened to conceivably halt aid to Jordan and Egypt if they refuse to take in Palestinians after he floated a plan to relocate Gazans to the two countries. Now, the threat came after Egypt rejected any compromise that will infringe on Palestinians' rights. After Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati met with his U.S. counterpart in Washington. Now, Trump is due to meet Jordan's King Abdullah in Washington today. He is also expected to meet with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, and the president's special envoy to West Asia, Steve Witkoff. Now, earlier in an interview with Fox News Channel, Trump said Palestinians would not have the right to return to the Gaza Strip under his proposal to redevelop the enclave. Then that is contradicting his own officials who had suggested that Gazans would only be relocated temporarily.
Land,
would the Palestinians
no
have the
big
right
money
to return?
spent. No, they wouldn't, because they're going to have much better housing, much better. In other words, I'm talking about building a permanent place for them, because if they have to return now, it'll be years before you could ever. It's not habitable. It will be years before it could happen. I'm talking about starting to build, and I think I could make a deal with Jordan. I think I could make a deal with Egypt. You know, we give them billions and billions of dollars a year.
Meanwhile, the Palestinian Authority has said it would end its system of payments to the families of those killed by Israel or held in Israeli prisons, including for attacks on Israelis. Now, responding to a long-standing request from Washington, the families will remain eligible for financial benefits under the Palestinian social welfare system. And for the latest details and latest news on this subject, WION's correspondent Susan Terani sent us this report from New York. Listen in.
On Monday, President Donald Trump issued a stern ultimatum to Hamas to release all hostages held in Gaza by noon on Saturday. He noted that if Hamas fails to comply, the ongoing ceasefire between Israel and Hamas should be canceled, allowing, quote unquote, for all hell to break out. Donald Trump emphasized that this means all hostages should be released simultaneously and not in small groups. He also acknowledged that the final decision will be with Israel, but made his position very clear. His statement comes after Hamas's recent announcement to postpone the release of hostages, saying that Israel has violated terms of the ceasefire agreement. Susan Terhwani reporting from New York for WION World is One.